Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just at close on Friday, March 26th. Wanted to take a look at the price targets that we had sent out for the week and see how we did. If you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also, if you haven't seen a video where I mentioned this yet, I have moved recently and I'm just getting set up. And so if my audio is a little bit challenging, I apologize, but it will get sorted out in the coming days. And I appreciate you bearing with me in the meantime. Okay, so let's kick things off with CCIV. So CCIV has a similar problem to space, which I discussed in another video, where it was caught in this pretty vicious downtrend. The downtrend is more vicious than space's was. It was able to finally claw its way out, but now it's sort of immediately retracing back toward it, which concerns me a bit. But what I'll be looking for is that this red price zone here, which is 22.96, doesn't become its new sort of magnetic zone where it keeps getting drawn back to it. It tries to push above and it gets pushed back down to it. It falls below and it gets drawn back up to it. To me, that's not going to be sort of the price strength that I'm looking for in this stock in order to have it tie up my capital for the time being. It may be sort of like a time to look elsewhere and then come back to CCIV when it starts to show some true price strength. But with these SPACs and pending mergers and stuff, you never quite know when something is just going to take off. And so that could certainly be the case, in the coming days as well. But as for what the chart looks like, obviously it fell below my bearish price zone pretty early in the week and then has just continued down. But it's because, it's caught in this pretty challenging downward channel. So, I just think that's sort of the be-all end-all for me. It's 22.96. Can it establish off of there and get away from it permanently, or is it going to keep getting drawn to it, whether it falls below or above, but keep returning to it and just sort of fiddle around too much for me? All right, so there's CCIV. GameStop was off like a rocket ship today, but got slowed down a bit. Let's pull this to the 30-minute chart to just kind of see how things are looking. We are slow loading here. Okay. So here was, it got off to a really great start this morning. That was the last that I saw of it actually because we're moving. And so I didn't see all of this, craziness, but tried to bounce off of that 176.01 price zone that we had identified before. It did bounce off this 170.29 and seems to be holding there. So that's its next best chance. It did the thing yesterday that I said it was going to have to do after it had these several down days, where I said, it needs to have a really big move up in order to regain enough momentum to keep pushing forward. Otherwise, it was just going to kind of fizzle through the $100 mark and below. But it did a good job of sort of immediately coming with that big push that I had talked about, and now is benefiting from that momentum and price strength. So I'll look for it to continue to develop above this yellow. Now it's sort of like some resistance and some support zones. It used to be its yellow support cushion, I called it, because it's several price zones. But that's what I'll be looking for from GameStop. So I think it's looking all right at the moment. The additional good thing that you see here is in this white line was indicating a bunch of lower highs, and once it broke through that, it has not re-entered below and continued to get pushed down by that white line. So hopefully that now acts as sort of a definitive bounce zone that'll give us several days or maybe even weeks in this case of some upward momentum. All right, FUBO has had a really, really rough day. Fell well below my bearish price target for the week and did that pretty quickly. And, there's not a lot to really get excited about unless you have short positions on FUBO. But, the best hope at the moment is, there was a clear bounce here that, could be the double bottom that it needed. I know it's a little hard to see because there's also all this volume that's showing. But, we can keep a look on that box to see if it continues to push off of there and then develops at this 2285. I actually think could be a good buy zone depending on what the price activity is doing, but we'll just keep checking it as the week develops, starting on Monday and sort of see what it does. But could be either a really good dip buying opportunity or sort of the start of a really unfortunate, brutal sell-off for FUBO. Mara has had some nice recoveries. Mara also has a history of filling gaps. So as you can see, there's an enormous one here that is, let me just make sure. There's actually a good chance that this got filled from this because it came down through it. This stupid box thing. So the price action came down through it, and I think it completed it with the wick. And then I think this wick is low enough on this green candle that it constitutes filling it from the bottom up as well. So that might be filled, which would mean, potentially that this will give us a big push from this like triple bottom here, will give us a big push upward. What I'm looking for it to do in the near term is come fill this big gap, which would take us all the way back up near 40, say into the mid 39s, and would be a nice sort of like mini recovery for Mara, which I think has a ton of upside, but let's establish that near future upside first before we worry about anything else. But we have a bunch of higher price targets set that, once we get to this, once we get this gap filled, we can look at those. AMC sort of did the thing GameStop did, where huge rally and then at open, it didn't fare as well as GameStop today at open, but nonetheless it had this sell-off and now is trying to sort of hold. It's still in its yellow cushion of support. It had fallen through that before. So hopefully it can do essentially like the GameStop thing that we're talking about, where it establishes through these yellow resistance zones now and returns that into support zone. This was my bearish price zone for the week, so it fell well below that pretty quickly. The interesting thing here is, at that point, we're looking at these like double, triple bottom area to hold, and it did, and it actually held up twice. So at close on this day, and then at open on the following day. So there might be a really, really strong point there, and that would actually be great because 9/11 was such a challenging price for AMC to get to when it was down in the 7s and the 8s. And I kept saying at that time that it'll really fly if it can get to that point, but it has to get to that point. So if that's now remarkably strong support because of this bottoming out, then that would be, a really good sign, at least if you want to set sort of like a floor for where you think AMC could or should be. It gives you potential averaging down dip buying opportunities. It gives you some sort of like alerts that you can set to sort of identify what the price is doing if it approaches that target. So all sorts of good things come from that, and we can look with some hope, I think, that that's potentially what's happening there. All right, well, I hope everyone survived the week okay. I know it was a tumultuous one. Some green, some red, but, have a look at my video on what to trade when the market's down if you're getting crushed by the red days and want to find ways to make yourself profitable on those days. Those are some pretty simple techniques, simple things that you can trade in order to make yourself profitable when the market is down. All right, well, have a great weekend, and I will see you all in the next video.